Hello everyone, today I'm going to be changing the ball joints on a 2008 Dodge Avenger. I have already done one side, but both sides will be the same, so I'm going to go ahead and do the driver's side now. I already have an idea of what it is like on the other side. It's not the easiest ball joint job, but it's definitely not the end of the world either. So the first thing we're going to do is lift up this side of the vehicle and take off the wheel. These lug nuts are 19 millimeter. Now I'm going to place a jack under the vehicle. And I'm going to remove the axle nut. If you don't have an impact, you might take the center cap off the wheel and put it back on to break this loose. But I've got an impact, so I'm just going to drive it right off. I've got a 32 millimeter socket for this. Beat that through real quick. Now I'm going to remove the whole brake assembly here. Got an 18 millimeter socket. Now I'm going to remove this sensor here. Got a 10 millimeter socket. And once we get this bolt off, you're going to want to pry on it very carefully. The one on the other side did not want to come out, so I kept prying on it. I eventually got it out, but these do break, so you want to be careful to try not to break it. I'm just going to use a screwdriver and kind of try to get behind it right here. I think I broke it. Definitely feels broken. And yep, that sensor broke, so that's going to be something else I have to get out once I get this knuckle off. Next I'm going to do is disconnect this tie rod. This is an 18 millimeter socket. I'm going to disconnect the ball joint from the control arm. I've got a 3/4 inch socket for this. Alright, this is how I did it on the other side. It's in there pretty good. So I lowered the car back down, basically to the ground. Got a crowbar underneath the bolt there. And I'm just going to hammer on the control arm. Finally got it broken free. Last things to remove this knuckle are to remove these 2 bolts that connect the knuckle to the strut. Got a 22mm for this. Now this knuckle should come off. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this sensor. You can see it from the inside of here. Probably going to get a punch or a chisel and get it in there, and be very careful not to damage the bearing or how the sensor reads everything, and punch it out from the inside. So that's what I'm going to do next, and then I'm going to remove this. There it went. Got it out, so I'll have to replace that. The first thing you need to do is remove this clip that keeps it on. So on the other side, I used a chisel to kind of rotate it around. I dug in and then hammered it and pushed it around, and then got a hold of one side and pried it off. So that's what I'm going to do here. So now that that's out of there, we can go ahead and press this out. All right, I've just got this ball joint tool that I got from Harbor Freight, and it doesn't work perfectly for this, but I got it to work on the other side, so it works. Just not the easiest. I'm sure they've probably got a special tool to push this one out, but this one will do. So this is how I've got it set up. Alright, so we've got it out that far. So what I'm going to do next is just hammer it out the rest of the way. we go, that one's out. So I'm just gonna take some sandpaper and clean this out just a little bit. All right, and I'm gonna take some grease and grease it up. And here is the new ball joint. Went with the Moog, and I'm gonna go ahead and put some on this too. Hopefully it slides in there okay. And here's how I have it set up to go back on. Can't really get anything in there, so I'm not gonna take it in all the way. That's as far as it'll go, like that. I've also got this piece. I don't know if I'm gonna try it this time. Last time I just hammered it in the rest of the way. Yeah, I don't think there's not enough clearance in the back, so that's not gonna work. So I'm just gonna hammer it in with this. It's in there. So now we're ready to put the clip back on. So you can just push the clip on into that groove. And it just goes right in. Now I can go ahead and put the greaser in there. You just put it in the hole on the top and screw it in. And you'll want it pointing that way so that you can get a grease gun on it, obviously. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get this sensor ran through. I've already pried it out of its little hole thing right here, but it plugs in here, and it clips on to the body here. But I pulled it off already, and it's down here, and it's kind of being a pain in the butt to get unplugged, but I haven't been able to see it until now. Looks like there's this red thing. Looks like you probably push that in, and that's how you unplug it. So that's what I'm gonna do. All right, I finally got it apart. I could not get the frickin' clip to disengage, so I just got a pair of pliers on one end and just tore it apart. So hopefully it'll be fine. I think it is fine. But now we just pull this all the way through and disconnect it everywhere, and then we'll run the new one in the same spot. So here's the new one. So we just gotta run this through and get it all hooked up. So it runs back behind all this and then up into that hole. So it actually came with a new bracket for this, so I can just take this out and put the new bracket on, and same with this, just take this off and put the new one on, and then we'll be ready to put the knuckle back on. All right, now I'm ready to put the knuckle back on. So I'm gonna get it lined up with the CV axle first, but I'm going to put a little bit of grease on these spindles. There we go. So we got it in the control arm. My CV axle's through. So now we just gotta get it lined up here. All right, so we got those both lined up. That's in there. CV axle's in there. So now we basically just gotta tighten everything up. Gotta put this sensor back in, and then put the brakes back together, and we're almost done. Just putting it all back together now. Got a 10mm down here and 18 again for this tie rod nut. Now I'm going to do the ball joint. The nut on this is different. It's got the indents on it for the pin, so you got to put the pin in there once you get this all tightened up. Just stick the pin through there and then bend it on the other side so it doesn't come out. There we go. Now we're ready to put the rotor back on and all the brake hardware. So now I'm ready to put the wheel back on. Got everything all tightened up. To the strut, to the control arm, to the tie rod. Put the sensor back in, put the brakes back on. So now we're ready to put the wheel back on. I removed the center cap so that I can torque down the axle nut after we have lowered it to the ground. So now I am ready to lower this to the ground. And I have had the axle nut started a little bit, but you do not tighten it all the way with a impact wrench because it will damage the wheel bearing and hub assembly, which is all one unit on this. So I've got my 32mm socket. I'm going to torque it to what I found online was 97 foot-pounds. I don't know if that's an accurate number. So if anyone knows if that's right or not, go ahead and tell me in the comments so everyone else can figure it out too. All right, so there we go. We're all done except for the center cup that we had to remove. Just put that back on, and we're done. So now we need to go get it aligned, but gotta take it to a shop for that. So that's it.